Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto Anime episode review. This one's going to be for episode 53, which is called Himawari's Birthday. And yeah, we're, I suppose, fully into the movie adaptation arc here. And so far, I think it's really, really good. It seems like they're giving a lot more information. They're incorporating, I suppose, setup moments from stuff that's going to happen later on, from stuff that they've sort of already like added in, and are adding it into the movie in a really interesting way. And I think that was highlighted with the first scene, which I think I probably go as far to say is probably one of the most impactful scenes we've got in a long time. And I think in overall Naruto, I think it's a very, very important moment, because it feels like one of the first hints in a while to something bigger, kind of what the, in a way, finale of Boruto kind of may end up being about. And the idea that we know Boruto kind of has these powers. We know from the manga he later, like, upon the ending of this arc, more or less is kind of granted even more abilities thanks to Momoshiki. And then finding out here, which we already knew, that like Toniari is kind of responsible for Boruto having his eye power, that they're setting up this idea because of the other Toniari scenes that Boruto is going to be this amazing character who has ninja skills, but then also has like the power that fundamentally comes from the Otsutsuki, like godlike beings, and more or less that places him on this level of being the absolute maximum. And then, as I've been sort of speculating about for a while, that Boruto is at some point going to be the series to give us key important information on the Otsutsukis. We already know that they're like aliens to a degree, that they just are from a different planet, they come from space, they're like, they seem to be like multi-dimensional based on like stuff that has been said to us before. So it seems like they're more advanced in some ways, but focus more on power than like ninjutsu type stuff. So I liked the hints here, getting to see Urashiki. I think he's the character that was originally going to be in the Boruto movie, but they had to cut out, but then they sort of reincorporated him back into things like through the end of the Naruto anime and stuff like that. So seeing him actually as the one to sort of I suppose take Toneri out of the picture for now, and I don't know if we'll see him on Earth or not. We probably will if they want to extend out the arc a little bit more and have more fights happen. It makes sense that, like, okay, this is what happens with Kinshiki, and then maybe they're able to defeat Urashiki or whatever, and then that sets up, of course, Momoshiki to be the main character. Still, it was cool to see him do the whole time freeze thing on him, talk about like the like palace of like dragons or something like that, suggesting like these kind of like deeper roots of like the mythology of the Otsutsukis and so on, and that they talk about the main family of the Otsutsukis. They reference Kaguya as having done this kind of really terrible thing, you know, the woman with the Byakugan, and really just like present this idea that, like, okay, there are multiple families. Are they, what specific family are they from? What are they about? Because obviously I think the plot now is focused to a degree on the fact that, like, okay, they're divine tree focused. We know that to a degree the focus of most Otsutsukis who want to gain power is that they find a divine tree in a dimension of some sort, and they use that to gain basically the power that Kaguya wanted to gain. But like, how did that come about? Why is the power that they seek in specific dimensions not really related to their planet? And just, I suppose in general, like, just everything about the Otsutsukis is now suddenly very interesting, because it seems like at some point eventually we're going to get deeper backstory on them, because even the extended backstory on Kaguya from the end of Naruto, the anime, only really covered her from like her arrival, but it still sort of hinted at things, just because, oh, so this is Kaguya like prior to really incorporating this extra stuff. here's just a raw Otsutsuki and finding out that she actually has powers like by default. And we know that Tonieri to a degree is sort of preparing Boruto to basically encounter other Otsutsuki members, so that's why he's giving him all these powers, so that Boruto is eventually able to become the one who sort of saves Earth effectively. And they mentioned it that like you know, I think that like the reason he's being taken out to a degree, Toneri, is that because they don't really speak very highly of his incident with the kind of girl with the Byakugan. I think I mixed that up earlier on, and they were more referring to him. I don't think they actually referenced Kaguya, but that's why he was there. But that also that there's a rule where like he can't kill members of the clan. So it seems like okay, you don't want to mess with the main family, even if you're like in a completely different dimension than them. There's obviously some level of fear, which is why he didn't actually kill him, but imprisoned him for like 10,000 years. But just the fact that like, oh, does this sort of explain now to a degree like things where like there's obviously still the connection of he tried to like marry Hinata in the last movie, and now he's giving Hinata's son this power. But we know it's more of a kind of him sensing the future type thing with Tonieri. But excellent scene, and especially because like this episode is mainly an adaptation, there's not too much to talk about with the episode specifically that's not just talking about the Boruto movie, which we've already like seen before in the movie and the manga covering it. I suppose, how did it work now that we're in this arc and Boruto's in that kind of highly emotional state, which has been set up to a degree, but I definitely think like you saw a little bit of the sort of struggles of like, okay, we had to fairly suddenly shift Boruto to now being like completely focused on Sasuke, sort of distracted from wanting to go through the ranks normally and being just like, I want to gain power, but I don't care about the ranks because Sasuke does it this way. And the promise setup I thought was very good in the Boruto's birthday episode. That really did help to, I think, explain much more effectively why Boruto is that upset at Naruto for what happened, because he was willing to like forgive him for missing his birthday if he went to Himawari's birthday. But the fact that they made this promise and he still broke it is obviously one of the key like negative moments here of just showing what the problems is. And then later on, like you sort of a little bit on Boruto's side because Naruto did break his promise, but we see from Naruto's perspective the amount of stuff he's dealing with. The Otsutsuki incident is taking up a lot of his time. That, you know, that was the like almost world-ending event from the end of original Naruto. And you could see that the kids sort of dismiss it, and they're just like, yeah, it's in our history book, you know, like, they keep talking about it even though we know about it, but, like, they don't get the full extent of just how, like, bad things were there, just how many people died and how desperate the final battle actually was. And so the big setup is that they haven't really they've encountered villains, and they know that there's more powerful people out there, but the arrival of an Otsutsuki into this series is suddenly going to put things from like here to here on the like power level stakes, to the point where it's going to be basically Sasuke, Naruto, and maybe the other Kage who can actually in any way fight these characters, which is basically the way things were towards the end of the series. And I think in that sense it's that which gives like Boruto the respect for Sasuke, but also the respect for his father, in understanding, I think, properly come the end of this series, just how powerful Naruto is and why he is the Hokage, why he does what he has to do in terms of protecting everyone. So I like the subtle little moments of setup with the Otsutsuki, and that they're really going to alter things as they now enter the series, that they are responsible for basically why Naruto's under so much stress and can't actually properly attend himself Himawari's birthday. Because there's the Chunin exams, and then just general other Hokage work that he has to do himself. And you also get Boruto's perspective in that, like, of course, you know, like, him not having his father around all that much is difficult, combined with what they've done in the last couple of episodes of like have certain characters really think like, oh, it makes sense why he's like a prodigy. He's Naruto's son, he's the Hokage's son, that's the only reason he's on that level, and they're not really giving him the respect that he wants. And so that element of it I do actually like, that he wants to prove himself, but he's not going about things the right way. He's still to a degree relying on how much of a prodigy he is, and even though we know he's not like completely averse to hard work in that he will put himself on the line for certain things, he doesn't understand the value of it in the same way that like other characters from like original Naruto did. And so that's part of the lesson that he has to learn here, which is why the introduction of Sasuke is so important. And it's one of those things where like knowing what happens, like I almost didn't want to look at the scene where Naruto was carrying the cake in, because it's such a hard scene to watch, because you know the emotion that's on the line the second that happens, of just Naruto's broken their trust, but he's exhausted. You understand that. Boruto is, you know, happy that his father's done this. They've just talked about the promise, you know, the forgiveness scene, and he's broken the promise. Hinata's just kind of like, I assume Hinata probably knew it was a shadow clone, but was kind of happy that things were going okay, and then she just knew the second that happened that like, oh, this is a mess. And then Himawari is upset, but kind of like holds it in, because I think she notices that like actually Boruto's the one who's even more annoyed about this. She's upset, you can tell, but it's Boruto's the one who's like super upset about it. And the Hinata Boruto scene is always, I think, a really good scene, because it sort of points out the idea of like, ooh, Boruto, you should not have said that, because Naruto's backstory and how it sort of defines him as a character is such a like integral part of things, that like trying to like dismiss that in a way like Boruto does here is just sort of like one of the biggest kind of no-nos in kind of all of Naruto. Like you shouldn't do that. Trying to say that like because Naruto didn't have his own, you know, parents growing up, that he doesn't really get why he needs to be around them all that much, is obviously like a really kind of terrible thing to say, because we as the audience know, like Hinata knows of course, and I think deep down like Boruto does know, that because of the way Naruto grew up, it's why he actually cares so much about the people that he does care about at this point, because he almost more than anyone cares about his family, because in a way he didn't have his growing up, and so his attachments are even more important to him. So it's meant to be kind of Boruto's, one of his lower moments, I suppose, here very early on in the arc. And I do think it works, because, you know, Hinata, like, kind of holding back tears herself, kind of, without just completely, like, scolding Boruto for saying what he says, she has to sort of be understanding of his feelings, but also that, like, no, that is not at all the way you should interpret what happened here, or, like, your father's view on his family, that, you know, that was a huge element of why he is the way he is, but it's also a huge element of why he cares so much about us, to say that, and just kind of pointing out to him that, like, you have your parents, you have your father, he didn't, and you take that one way, but the truth is actually the other way. So it's a very well done scene, a lot of these emotional scenes here, which obviously leads to Boruto throwing Naruto's original kind of jacket out the window, and talking about how uncool he and his father is, and then Sasuke enters the scene, and it's cool because like it's his first time like meeting Boruto, and just immediately you can tell like Sasuke's making some kind of judgment calls right here immediately, but this is Boruto meeting the person he considers to be basically his hero at this point, and just moments like Sasuke coming to the door to ask if Naruto's there just shows that like, oh, so it's true, this like legendary figure Sasuke actually was friends with my father, and he just gets this sense, like this aura from Sasuke that like, okay, this is someone special in a way. So cool entrance, and it made sense, I think, given like what they did like in the last episode, to use this as a kind of cliffhanger for this part of the for this first episode of the arc. Anything else in the episode? Like, it was cool to see like Denki just get a scene kind of involved in this. You know, seeing some of the other kind of characters be like, oh, we're also going to the Chunin exams, type stuff. You know, Shikacho, that team got a scene with Moegi, which you know was just nice. I think it was meant to kind of highlight that because of Shikamaru's sort of solo arc, he now has gone from potentially being the one who wouldn't be overly hyped about the Chunin exams to actually being like, no, because of my experiences in that arc, I now want to participate, and it's why he's going to become, I suppose, one of the I suppose main rivals in a way of Boruto within this arc. Other than that, the Konosuke stuff I thought was actually very well done, because if you just watch the movie, I don't think you at all really get the impression that like Konosuke is actually a ninja himself, and the movie has this weird interpretation of just like, here's this guy making technology, but then the manga and the anime have done a good job at actually explaining that no, he is a ninja, he also just makes ninja tools, and explaining with this scene that like Naruto didn't just ban scientific ninja tools from the Chunin exams for no reason. They give good context here of like, no, the reason the Chunin exams are what they are is to test ninja and their own skills to see if they are good enough to warrant using as kind of leaders of other ninja. And that can't be tested if we allow them all to use this device that basically allows them to use any jutsu that they want. I suppose the extension that they didn't go into here, but I think clearly is the way they go in like the manga afterwards, which is like, once you prove yourself to be at that level, of course use whatever tools you need to get the job done, but it's all with the idea that you've passed the Chunin exams and you are proven as a ninja that you can actually be just as good with or without the crazy scientific ninja tools. But because you know your own skills and like they're at a certain level, you can use those extra stuff as well. And that's in a way an aspect of the arc in the manga right now that they've been doing. So I thought that was quite interesting. And as well, I suppose, having Konosuke not just like in the movie, he sort of becomes fairly like villainous from the get-go. You can tell there's sort of like scheming going on. But I also like that, like, to a degree, his rejection of like letting them use this ninja tool, just him on his own, he was kind of like, you know, I disagree with them, I think they should use this, and he was kind of planning on doing something like, maybe I should like get Boruto to actually use this on his own, but then he decides against it, and then you see someone come in and actually like, you know, take him out, genjutsu him. What happens? Now, this is obviously set up, I think, we don't have the full reveal for this, but that it potentially is the current villain in the manga, the Kara organization, that might be what exactly happened here. But still, it's setting up the idea that it's not Konosuke in his own mind kind of accomplishing this. And I suppose the other side of the Konosuke arc is that Boruto cheating in video games is potentially an insight into the fact that he may end up cheating in the exams, which is a part of the arc because he's trying to prove himself on his own that he can be on the level of a Sasuke and get to that level where he can take down like Zetsu and this Otsutsuki stuff like himself. So like him actually using the tools, it feels like is his kind of substitute for hard work, that I could get there if I work hard enough, or I can just use these weapons right now and kind of accomplish everything I need to like that. And it just being that part of the arc, he takes the easy way out instead of working hard to get to that point. But yeah, excellent first episode of this arc. Loved the additional scenes, especially the Otsutsuki scene at the start. That, I think, has a lot of promise for, I think, much later on down the road, where they're really going with the idea of Boruto's power, what the true setup is really for how things get to the point where like the first scene in the anime, the first scene in the manga happens in the future. potentially like really heavily exploring what the Otsutsukis are, what they're about, and just the idea of like, imagine just a whole army of Otsutsukis arriving on like Earth, and us getting to see the main family, how different they are, their culture, and just at a top level what the Otsutsukis are about. Because it's almost this case of like, most of the Otsutsukis that we've met so far are not like particularly like important people within their own like kind of structure, but they come across as the most powerful beings of all time on here compared to like Ninja, but we haven't actually seen their best come out yet. But yeah, great episode. In the comments let me know what your thoughts were on it. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.